Good day, friends. So, welcome again to the third session of this series on introductory classes for the course of post-graduation diploma in counseling and guidance. In the last two sessions, we had spoken about guidance. We had spoken what are the various principles and procedures that are involved in guidance and counseling. We had spoken about how we as counselors can guide students across their various tenures of elementary school, middle school, so on and so forth. We had also spoken about what are the various steps of establishing a guidance clinic in schools. This basically covered the contents of the first paper. In the second paper, we spoke about psychotherapy. We spoke about more in-depth or more long-term process of counseling and what were the various techniques, skills that we as counselors needed to develop in order to help our clients better, or in order to reach out to our clients in a more better way. We spoke about different settings in which we perform counseling in terms of individual counseling, in terms of group counseling, and also in terms of vocational counseling. So now in this session, we are going to cover the third paper. This paper is called Dynamics of Adjustment and Personality. Now, when you see the previous two papers, they covered the various skills or the various techniques that we needed to cover, we needed to understand, or we needed to learn in order to apply the knowledge of psychology while treating or while helping our clients. In this session, we are going to do something different. This paper is a pure theory paper in the sense that here most of the units, like all the 5 units of this paper, will give you the theoretical basis of your client behavior. So this theory will help you understand your clients in a much better way. Now you will ask me, what is actually theory? When we talk about theory in terms of psychology, we talk about certain patterns. For example, let's say we are talking about personality theories. So in personality theories, we talk about patterns of behavior. So when we talk about the psychoanalytical personality, which was given by Sigmund Freud, we talk about a pattern that is seen, in the sense the pattern is described in the form of 3 components of personality, which is id, ego and superego. It is described in the form of the various levels of consciousness, which are the conscious level, the subconscious level and the unconscious level. We also talk about the defense mechanisms that we as individuals use when we are faced with ego conflicts. Now you would ask me that how do we bring these patterns, or how do psychologists come across these patterns? So when we see a certain set of individuals having certain common problems or having certain common circumstances, we try to understand their behavior. And when we see certain common themes underlying their behavior, we say that this is a pattern that is seen in these kind of patients or these kind of population. For example, let us assume that you are working as a school counselor, or you see that between the ages of 14 to 16, you see a lot of students approaching to you with interpersonal issues or with problems related to their self-identity. And you see that these students are basically using certain common defense mechanisms or certain common uh, kind of ways of handling this situation. So when you see similar kind of situations, when you see similar kind of responses of different students to a similar situation, you kind of draw these patterns. For example, one of the pattern that you would draw is that during the ages of 14 to 16, students or adolescents tend to believe more in what their peers say than in what their parents say. So that is a theme that you have drawn from your observations after you see a number of students. Similarly, psychologists also see a number of clients, a number of patients, and when they see a common underlying theme, they use these themes to come up with theories that explain the behavior of clients, of patients. Now, how you will use these theories is very important. We have got a number of theories that explain personality, that explain human development, and the various therapies are given in terms of these theories. So first you see different themes, you combine these themes to come with a theory, and based on these theories you come up with a set of therapies that will be used to help the client. So this is the basic theme of theories and therapies that we use in psychology. Another important thing is that when it is important to understand these theories in detail, because first it will give us an understanding of human behavior. Second, we will not see the different behaviors of our client as random pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, but we will try to fit in together and form a comprehensive picture of our client's situation and problem. So we'll see different behaviors, we'll try to fit in these behaviors in different places or in their respective places and form this jigsaw puzzle as a whole when we are dealing with our clients. So that is one thing, one way in which these theories will help us. These theories will also help us to come up with our diagnosis of the client situation, and this diagnosis will help us to come up with the proper solutions for our clients. So we will be able to come up with a comprehensive intervention plan for our clients based on these theories. Now let us, so this is basically the importance of this paper. And even if you think that every client will not be a textbook example of a particular theory, but every client will show certain themes of every theory, and you will have to see which theory fits your client the best and then come up with the intervention strategy. So let us start with this paper, Dynamics of Adjustment and Personality. So now when we talk about adjustment, well, in general day-to-day language we use the term adjustment, but according to psychologists, adjustment is between our needs and the obstacles in the environment. So we have certain personal needs, we have certain social needs, certain professional needs, and there are obstacles in the environment which do not allow us to meet those needs. So finding the right balance is called adjustment. Humans and animals regularly adjust to their environment. For example, when they are stimulated by their physical state to seek food, they eat to reduce the hunger, and hence they adjust to the hunger stimulus. You must have seen in physiological psychology that whenever we feel hungry or whenever we feel thirsty, the hippocampus in our brain gives a signal, and the hypothalamus in our brain gives a signal to our body which generates the desire to eat or to drink. And when we consume food or when we drink water, the stimulus is subsided. However, adjustment disorder occurs when there is an inability to make a normal adjustment to some kind of need or stress environment. Now let us take this case and see what is adjustment disorder. Mr. J is a 17-year-old young man. He has for the first time left his hometown in order to pursue higher studies. So there are this certain, so his goal, his personal and professional goal is to complete his higher studies. However, there is an obstacle. The obstacle is that he cannot pursue his studies in his hometown. So he has to leave his hometown and enter a completely new culture. Now, in this situation, if we as psychologists are confronted with such a case, we need to do two things. Firstly, we need to see what are the various stressors or environmental challenges that he may come across during adjustment to his new culture. And secondly, we also need to help him find different ways and means to overcome these challenges. So this is something that we are going to study, or this is something that we are going to cover in this paper. So the objectives of this paper are, first, to understand the concept of adjustment from a psychological perspective. So we are not just talking about something that we use in a day-to-day conversation, but we are talking about psychological perspectives of adjustment. We'll also see the various theories of development, as in theories of human development, and what the various stages of our lifestyle have an impact on the adjustment process as an individual. The third objective is to understand the factors that influence adjustment and the various dynamics of adjustment. The fourth is to study the different theories of personality and how each theory describes the way we interact with our environment. So let us start with each and every unit, and we will run through what are the various concepts, or what are the various subtopics that we will cover in each unit. The first unit is called adjustment. So now in this unit we will study the various definitions of the concept of adjustment, and we will see what is a person, or what are the characteristics of a person who is interacting with his environment on a full potential or on a positive terms. So the term adjustment refers to the extent to which an individual's personality functions effectively in the world of people. We as individuals, we are social beings, and that is something that you must have heard is the crux of social studies. Now, the extent or the level to which we are able to operate effectively in our environment is called adjustment. It refers to the harmonious relationships between person and the environment. So when a person is well adjusted, what he will do is he will play his roles in the society. For example, a person will play multiple roles. He in his personal life he is related to his family members. So there are multiple roles that he will perform in that capacity. In his professional life, he might be a student, he might be a working professional. So again, there will be multiple roles that he is going to fulfill. And a person who is interacting in all these roles and being able to answer to the responsibilities assigned by the environment to the best possible way is a well-adjusted person. Also, his needs will be satisfied according to the social constraints of his environment. So it is not just giving to the society, but also receiving from the society, and receiving in such a manner that his personal and professional growth are not affected. So this is something that, so when we talk about adjustment, we talk about the characteristics of well-adjusted person. We also talk about what happens when the person is in sync with the environment. Now, to explain how individuals adjust, there are 4 theories of human adjustment. So we across lifespan, we grow and we develop in various areas. And in each of the areas, our individual needs are different, are evolving. Similarly, the expectations of the society from us as an individual is also evolving. So there are different theories that explain these process of human development. In this chapter, we are going to cover 4 basic theories of human adjustment. So we'll first talk about the biological approach of human development. Here we'll talk about how our body changes or how our body develops, and what are the physical changes that are seen in us as a human being when we grow from a child and to adolescence, teenage, then adulthood and old age, and how in these phases of our physical growth we interact with our environment. Now these interactions may not always be positive, may not always be complete, or may not always be to their full extent. For example, there might be certain individuals who might have had certain disabilities from childhood. So from the childhood they might have been uh, either physically disabled, or they might have lacked certain abilities in terms of hearing ability, in terms of speaking ability or visual ability. So how these issues interact when they are interacting with their environment throughout their childhood, throughout their adolescence, will be different. Also, there could be a possibility that a person in his lifespan may have or may come across certain situations because of which the ability is lost. For example, a child may have had an accident, or a child may have had a certain illness because of which the physical ability of the child is hindered. So, a child who might be affected by cancer, or a child who might be affected by juvenile diabetes, or a child who might be a patient of polio. So, there are certain illnesses, there are certain environmental influences which can reduce the physical capabilities of an individual, and again the individual or the child will face challenges while interacting with the environment. So the child was born healthy, the child had all the physical abilities, but the child lost it due to certain circumstances. It can also be that the person had a very healthy childhood. Through adolescence, the person was very healthy, but then in later stages, in old age, the person started facing certain physical challenges in terms of the person may have had Parkinson's, because of which the physical ability or the movement of the person is restricted. So even even if this person had a completely so to say normal or healthy biological functioning throughout his life, at the end stage the person may have certain incapacities which can again become a challenge when this person is interacting with his or her environment. So the biological approach tries to understand what are the required set of biological functions necessary in every stage of development, and how, in case a person does not lacks these functioning, how the person is going to overcome the challenges that he or she is facing. Also, childbirth or adolescence, wherein every individual comes across certain changes in their physical body, is another stepping stone where a person must learn to adjust to the physical changes in their body. So this is also something that is covered with under biological approach. Then we come to the behavioral approach. We speak about conditioning, we speak about how we learn new behaviors, we talk about reinforcement, we talk about rewards and punishment, and how these things shape human development and human behavior. We come across the third theory, which is Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. Here we talk about um, the 8 stages in which Erikson explains that every stage has a goal to achieve, and every individual for positive growth has to reach that particular goal. Otherwise, that person might have certain challenges or incapacities in his psychological behavior as he or she grows. The fourth theory we are going to study in this chapter is called Bandura's social cognition theory. Here we talk about how we develop beliefs, how we develop our understanding of our social environment around us. So how we develop positive approaches towards certain things, how we develop negative approaches towards towards certain phenomena, is something that is explained by the Bandura's social cognitive theory. So we have seen four theories that explain human development. Now, when you see a client, according to the according to the various problems, or according to the various situations the client is facing, we will try to see the client in terms of these four theories and see where the person or where the client has not been able to adjust to the changes in his life cycle, and where the client needs help in terms of therapy and intervention. So depending on, if we see that the client's current problems are because of a stage in which he has not been able to clear, which can be supported by Erikson's theory. So we'll try to understand that angle. If we see that the client has not been reinforced, or the negative behaviors of the client are reinforced, then we'll try to address it from the behavioral approach. If we see that the client's problems are arising from certain physical challenges, then we will try to address it from a biological approach of human development. So based on the various problems, or based on the various theories that are applicable to this client, we will try to address the situation. The third unit is called dynamics of adjustment. Now, adjustment is not the end goal that we are trying to achieve. Adjustment is a process, and our aim as therapists, our aim as counselors, is to teach this process to an individual, to the client, so that if a new problem comes, or if the client is faced with a new situation, then the client is able to use that process in a positive and a constructive manner. Adjustment should never be viewed as a static condition, but always as a dynamic process. No person is ever free from the necessity of meeting varied conditions. Some of them are new, some old, and with each variation of these conditions, there must be a modification in the response shown by the client. So now, even after the therapy, or even after your interactions with the clients are over, the client is going to face different situations. The client is going to face an old problem again. The client may face a completely new problem, or the client may face a variation of a previous problem. So now, in each of these situations, You cannot give the client do XYZ in terms of clear steps, but you need to make the client ready to use these steps and modify them based on the situation, and how best your therapy can work in that particular situation. However, when we say that the client is having adjustment disorder, we mean that the response to the stressful situation is not healthy. The response is not in accordance with the situation or the event that has caused stress or discomfort in the client. And here in this we need to understand how the client is addressed this situation and then help him resolve that particular problem. So this brings us to our fourth unit. The fourth unit is called environmental adjustment. Now, when we spoke about what the concept of adjustment was, we meant that between our needs, that is something internal, and between the environment, that is external, we need to maintain an equilibrium. However, every single day when we get up, we are faced with certain needs. We have biological needs, we have psychological needs, we have social needs, we have financial needs, we have spiritual needs, and these needs we need to meet these needs. However, the society or the environment is not always very generous. There could be obstacles, there could be challenges, and there could be hindrances in the process of meeting our needs. So in terms of every need, we need to while fulfilling these urges, while fulfilling these needs, we go through various processes, and we go through this entire cycle of meeting our needs. So this process of adapting to environmental condition is also something that we need to understand when we are helping the client to adjust. So now what happens how the cycle of environmental adjustment takes place? So first, there is an imbalance. There is an imbalance between the environment and our needs as an individual. So this results in maladjustment. After that, because there is an imbalance, we or our clients may face anxiety neurosis. Anxiety neurosis is a situation wherein the client may either feel depressed, the client may feel anxious, sometimes the client may give an aggressive response to the situation. In that case, we as psychologists need to address the basic conflict. So what is a basic conflict? Is it just that present need, or is there an underlying conflict which has come up, which has brought the client to this particular situation? Sometimes what happens is that the deep-rooted cause of the disorder may be something very different from what the present situation is. So in order to make the client feel better, or in order to help the client overcome the situation, we have to address the present situation, but we also have to address the deep conflict or the deeper problem that the client is facing. We need to teach the client different types of reactions or different ways in which the client can adjust. Then after we help the client with the interventions, the client will go back to the society and implement our interventions. Then again there will be a new need, and again that need may bring about a situation of maladjustment. So that is a cycle in which a new need results in imbalance, and then how we as psychologists can help the client restore that balance and function in the society once again. So now now we have spoken about adjustment. We'll speak a little bit about personality in the next unit. What is personality? Well, you may come up with different theories, or you may come up with different components that describe our personality. So it could be temperament, it could be emotions, it could be thoughts, it could be impulses, it could be behaviors, it could be spirituality, it could be our reactions, it could also be our belief systems. So personality, when we say personality, it is not just one component, it is a set of different components which can be classified in three basic categories. First is behaviors. Behaviors, because behaviors are something that can be seen, that is very obvious, that we can see as an outsider. Then the second is cognitions. Why do we behave in a certain way? Because we are thinking in a particular manner. So cognitions refer to the various processes, mental processes that are happening within our mind or brain, whatever you would like to say. So these processes will include thinking, then reasoning, perception, attention, memory, problem solving, decision making. So all these processes that result in our behavior. So when we pay attention to our external environment, we perceive that there is a society around us. We perceive the different components in the society. We perceive different components in our environment, both animate and inanimate. Now then we use our higher mental functions like thinking, reasoning, and we try to analyze what this environment around us is. Then we also use things like problems. So when we are faced with a problem, we use problem solving. When we are faced with a situation, we use decision making. And these problem solving and decision making is something that comes out as our behavior. So our cognitions result in our behavior. Now these cognitions are influenced by emotions. If we take a man and a machine, a man, as we spoke earlier, analyzes the external environment and gives a result or a behavior or an output. The machine does the same thing. It analyzes the inputs and it comes with an output. However, the major difference between a man and a machine is that the machine will give a similar output every time. In terms of a man, or in terms of a human being, we have something called emotions that are going to color our cognitions, and hence the behavior will change every time, or the behavior is going to change depending on our emotional background. For example, a parent, every time the father comes home and every time the child asks the father to help him in his studies. Now, the reaction of the father will not be the same every time. Why do you think so? The situation is nearly the same. The father is come, the child is asking the father for assistance in schoolwork. But the reaction of the father will be different. Sometimes if the father will be very positive in his reaction, sometimes the father will be extremely negative, and there will be a range of reactions that or behaviors you will see between these two extreme behaviors of being helpful and being unresponsive. So that is going to be that is something that is going to be colored by the emotions. If the father has had a positive experience or positive day at work, then his emotional background, his emotions will be positive. If he has had something stressful, then his emotions will be negative, and these emotions are going to direct his behaviors. So these three components are the basic pyramid of personality, and we need to understand them in order to understand the response of the individual to different situations. When we study personality, we try to understand these tendencies that underlie these behaviors. So why these behaviors are different, what brings about the changes in behavior in similar situations, is something that we are going to study when we talk about personality psychology. We'll study different theories in this. We'll start with the psychoanalytical theory. Then we'll also talk about behavioral theory, cognitive theory. We'll also talk about client-centered theories by Carl Rogers and Maslow. So these are the various theories of personality which we will study, and we will apply these theories when we are dealing with our clients in counseling and guidance. So this kind of brings us to the closure of the third session. We have spoken about this paper on adjustment and psychology. Well, when we talk with our friends, when we talk with our family members, we use this term very lightly. However, we need to understand that not being able to find this fit can result in many problems in our client, and as counselors we need to take them seriously, because uh, we are human beings, we are not machines, and we are not programmed to handle each and every situation rationally. Sometimes our emotions, our underlying beliefs get a better part of it, and we respond to certain situations irrationally, that leads to problems in our personal and interpersonal life. And you will see a lot of clients where you will see that the response could have been so much simpler, but in that situation in which the client was, the client may not be able to generate that kind of response that easily, and we are there to help the client to be able to react, to be able to respond to these situations in a more positive and a constructive manner. And hence these theories are important. So whenever you see your clients, use these backing, or use the backing of your theoretical knowledge and help the client. This will help you design your interventions in a much better way, and you will be able to study the progress of your client in a more systematic manner. So thank you very much, and see you for the next session, which will be the last one, in which we will talk about the various assessment techniques that we will be using in our process of counseling. So thank you very much.